Ladies, gentlemen, and everyone in between, welcome to a very special episode of This Is a Revolution. I am George, not joined by Mr. Dave Lamarck this evening. You have got me to guide you through Live in London 94. Mr. Dave Lamarck has deservedly decided it is time to take some holidays, taking leave, taking absence from talking all things Rev Pro. And he's going to be one of you guys. He's going to be a viewer. You get to experience what I felt from the event on Sunday. So thank you to everyone for tuning in. Hopefully you stick around. Hopefully you like what you hear and just enjoy the show. So before we get started into this, and what a wonderful show it was in London, I just want to do a few little plugs. First of all, if you're new here, hello, welcome. Like, share, subscribe, everything on YouTube, everything on Spotify. When I remember to upload it to Spotify, sorry guys. Just please like, share, subscribe. There are going to be a lot of new faces who watch this channel because they are aware of some of the American names coming. They are aware of one Mercedes Moné being Rev Pro undisputed British Women's Champion. And they're going to be like, hey, what's this all about? Well, let me tell you now, davelamarck.com for written Rev Pro guides. You can find on soon to be formally released cromulentgeorge.com. You will find Rev Pro power rankings that have proven some very interesting things this year. And so far, we've got some good predictions on there. I called CPF moving across maybe to the tag division, and we'll get into that a little bit later in the show. You can also like, share, subscribe, like I said, everything on YouTube. Any subscribers we get on there just keeps our numbers rising. It really helps the channel. To think that we're just 2 months shy of our first video, how this channel has grown in that time. Thank you all. So what we're going to cover today is we are going to cover Live in London. I'm going to cover a few announcements that came out just before and maybe just between the shows, and we're also going to talk a little bit about Southampton, so just give a little bit of a flavour about what's coming up. But right now, Live in London 94. We were chatting about this in the venue, and I know that the sentiments that a lot of people felt was this is the best Live in London show of the year. And you know what? In the moment, I could definitely feel that. I understood it. This was a card of 7 matches, which always gives me a bit of extra excitement going into it. And you might be wondering, well, why? Like, you think 8 matches, that would be the normal thing. Well, Rev Pro seem to have this thing on a 7-match card where you can almost guarantee that there's going to be extra layers of storytelling going on. And whether that's matches running a bit longer than normal to really eke out some story beats, or whether it's going to be some post-match angles or announcements. And we had all of that tonight. And I think that's what really made this show work well. But what I really loved about this as well is there was also a bit of a running thread from the first half to the second half as well that we'll talk and we'll get into a little bit later. But I thought this had the makings of a really great 229. And I wouldn't be surprised come the end of the year if this featured heavily in a lot of people's regional London show lists for show of the year. But we kick-started off things with the match that you can see on screen here now. Ricky Knight Jr. versus Cameron Kai. Now, I think it'll be fair to say that for some people, the recent booking with Ricky hasn't quite hit the mark. And I'm myself one of those people, and I couldn't really quantify it. I still don't know, or didn't know as a character, where Ricky was kind of going. And we go back to the Copper Box last year, and we see the Killer. We see all of that pomp and circumstance around Ricky Knight Jr. And thinking, great, this is what he's going to turn into. And then at the Doncaster Dome in October of last year, after losing to Michael Oku, there seemed to be this crisis of confidence. And then coming round to Uprising really made his return known. And again, it felt like Ricky was going to go on this killer run. And since then, I can't say that the booking of this has felt where I thought it would go. There seems to be times when maybe Ricky's overconfidence has looked for some kind of less than ethical ways of winning matches, some cheating and stuff like that. And for me, one of those things as well was the rivalry with JJ Gale. And coming into Wolverhampton, it felt like many people expected that match to be more of a fight, and it was more of a wrestling match. And that's no criticism, the guys are both great wrestlers. But for what that feud was, it felt like it should have been a bit more. And I know a lot of us were going into that expecting it to be announced as a no DQ or something of that ilk, and nothing came. And I think for some people it hit to a decent level, but it didn't hit the heights that a lot were expecting. And I think that's because we got a very different type of match to what we felt the story was dictating that we might get. So I think that's what it was. Expectations not met, but not in a way that I feel that people can sometimes get carried away and exaggerate what they think might happen in fantasy book. More of how the beats were laying out. But I cannot say that about this match with RKJ and Cameron Kai. We've spoken on the pod how ever since maybe the Trios tournament, Cameron Kai was on this run where it felt like he was up next for that belt. The Cruiserweight belt, that is. And then something somewhere has just petered off a little bit. And I don't know what it was, but there was just this wave of momentum that Cameron had just wasn't carrying through anymore. And I don't know why it wasn't hitting with people. And we've gone on quite a few shows this year where Cameron hasn't been one of the people at the forefront. Cameron would be a mainstay on shows in 2024. So getting Cameron Kai back on screen has been really great. And this little injury angle where Ricky keeps attacking and whatnot, I think has done a lot to really help, again, reinvigorate some of that fire that Cameron's got, because the lad is very good at what he does, and they showed it in this match. What I really loved about this match was it was a fight masqueraded in a wrestling match. And that's what we want, right? We don't want everything going in there looking like a real fight. As wrestling fans, we want a wrestling match, but we want something that feels like a fight and authentic, not in a way that two guys who really hate each other are just going to go and do loads of backflips and everything. Like, this felt like it was a proper fight. Strikes were hard. They were going in each other straight away. There was one point Ricky Knight Jr. got chucked into the merch and Cameron just charged at him. I thought it was all done really superbly. I think they did a fantastic job of utilising this to, one, get some fire in Cameron and Ricky in this match. It made Ricky look sadistic as hell. It made Cameron look really fired up and got the crowd right into him, getting back on track with him. I think he just did a really good job at kickstarting a bit of momentum for Cameron, where maybe it felt like it was cooling off a little bit. So I thought this match in just under 13 minutes did a really great job at telling that story. And obviously that's building up to Southampton. So Ricky Knight Jr. versus Leighton Buzzard was a match that, when it was originally announced, I thought was going to be a Doncaster match. But we've got it in Southampton. And with the way this match went, the post-match went, first of all, Leighton Buzzard coming out looking like $1 million. Again, it felt very Triple H. And I mean that with the utmost respect for Leighton and kind of the looks that Triple H would have gone for back in the day after injury. Like, you can tell there's a generation at play who've grown up watching this stuff and they're finding their own style to do it. I thought it was really interesting because I thought at first Leighton had done a Led Zeppelin inspired t-shirt, thinking I'm gonna buy that from merch, but no, he was just wearing a cool as fuck Led Zeppelin t-shirt, leather jacket, and looking like he was gonna come in and be your new stepdad while out in a biker gang. That is what he looked like, and it was glorious. Obviously, he was talking about when he was injured and he's now back and how long he's been cleared for. And then Ricky attacked him again. And Ricky has really highlighted this vulnerability of Leighton. And I think if they play their cards right, they can really get some good usage out of Leighton having this badass look and feel. Because he looks and feels like $1 million. Like I said, he looks like he can just go and brawl out in the streets with the best of them, but has this vulnerability in the way that Kenny Omega has, in the way that Bryan Danielson utilizes. If they know the boundaries of which they can write the story in this, they can really utilize that in a good way. So I'm looking forward to Southampton. Obviously, Ricky came out and just killed him, said something along the lines of, your Rev Pro career started in Southampton, it's going to end in Southampton. Up until that line, a few of us thought that actually what maybe they were doing was writing this off for an extra week and have the match in Doncaster. I think if they did that, it probably looks Leighton not look as tough and determined. So I think having this match go ahead in Southampton is going to be good. I think this is then going to go on to something in Doncaster. What that might be, I don't know. Could we get something RKJ versus Cameron versus, or with Leighton? Could we get something like Cameron Kai and Leighton Buzzard versus RKJ and Zach Knight? That's another possibility that I've just kind of thought up. It'll be interesting to see where this goes and see if this is the end of the story for RKJ and Leighton, whether it continues. But I thought it was a really, really great start to the show. Next up was Jordan Breaks and Zazaya. Oh, this was such a fun match. It was 12 and a half minutes of just really great technical wrestling. Two really nice guys as well, like that people love and respect. And I think that really came across. They had some fun in the ring. I don't know how this is possible, but Zazaya just looked even better than normal. And I think the work that he's doing across the world with the top wrestlers in the world, you can see he's learning and getting some more stuff out there. It was a really great match full of great technical wrestling. There was a lot of fun spots. I loved how there was the spots where Jordan Breaks had Zazaya grapevined his feet, and Zazaya tried to get out but couldn't. He was locked in there. And then you had the same spot reversed, and Zazaya did the same to Jordan Breaks, who literally just walked out of it. And for as fun a spot as that was, what was really cool about it is it really set the tone for this technical style of Jordan Breaks. Like, everyone knows Zazaya and what he's about, but you can't beat Jordan Breaks when it comes to technical wrestling. He knows how to get out of things. He knows how to reverse things. I just thought this was a wonderful match. It's one that I'm really looking forward to going back and watching. I haven't had the chance yet, but I think going back and watching this one is going to be a lot of fun. And just, you could see there in the moment how much fun these guys were having. It wasn't supposed to be any kind of necessary technical classic, but even not trying to play up to that really high bar that they could reach, it was still very good, and the crowd were all involved in it. At the end of the match, we got an announcement from Zazaya. Said that Rev Pro is his home. Great. Stay, please. And he's entering the Revolution Rumble. So there we go. That's our second announcement. We've already got one called Manders and now Zazaya. Really, really strong start to this Revolution Rumble announcements. And then out of nowhere comes Jay Joshua, who just took out Zazaya. The man looks like a beast. Absolutely looks like a beast. And then just drops the microphone. Say less. That alone, I have to hope that is going on the Doncaster card. that feels like a match that just is too good not to be there. And when we're talking about the Doncaster card, we are talking about a card that is going to be the eyes of the wider wrestling world are going to be on this show, okay? Because Mercedes Moné is going to be featuring on that, just in case you haven't heard, okay? She's going to be featuring on that, and we've already seen and heard on here the difference in things, the amount of people that are commenting on things, like I've released stuff and posts and whatnot, and people who I've never even heard of started following me or commenting on things, and I click on their Twitter profiles and it says Mercedes Moné stan and stuff like that, and the reach that she has is unfathomable. And Dave has mentioned before about the Rev Pro Instagram, and he's talked about the impressions. There's like literally millions of impressions. The woman is a worldwide superstar, and you can't help but feel there is going to be a bunch of people that will sign up for Rev Pro on demand, even if it's for 1 month. And think of the boost there if you're getting 1,000 people. Let's say you get 1,000 people who want to see Mercedes Moné have that match. There you go. Like there's the money, 6,000, 7,000 straight off that. This match is a huge boom for Rev Pro, and hopefully they get the money there. They can do some meet and greets and all that sort of really, really just make some good bank off of it, because it's going to be great. But it also opens up this prime window of really giving a storefront view to all these great wrestlers. And look, we know Zazaya. Japan has started to know Zazaya. There's another country out there, America, who have probably not heard of Zazaya, or if they have, it'll be more so from reports that this guy's getting looks by WWE, or maybe I'd have seen him on SmackDown or something like that. But yeah, to set this up, Jay Joshua as well. These two have history. They were on opposing teams at Doncaster last time. And I'm hoping that this means a match in Doncaster again, because we often talk about styles making fights. Zazaya is a very quick guy, very technically sound. Jay is a big guy, very much a hard-hitting style, but also really agile as well. So you've got complementary styles, but you've also got different styles as well. This could have the makings of a match of the year. And you'll find that I will say this a lot when nobody wants to check me on this, but I will add, like, genuinely, this was one of the matches that I had on my bucket list of I need to see. So the chance that I could be getting to see this front row at Doncaster is really high on my bucket list. But already we're off to quite a, I don't use the word chaotic, but a dynamic start. Like the Ricky and Cameron match, followed by Leighton, followed by the attack, followed by this. Like, it just felt like there was a lot going on, and that was really a theme for the night. Chris Ridgway versus Leon Cage. Talked about stars making fights. This was wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. I am always happy to see Leon Cage at a show, and I think since he's debuted, I don't think there's been a Rev Pro show that he hasn't been on. The lad has found himself in Rev Pro. Everyone knew what Leon Cage could bring, okay? Everyone has seen the clips. Everyone has seen the Young Bucks do a double team version of his move on Dynamite. And I think it's really interesting what they're doing here. Leon Cage has only won one match, okay? The match that he won was a tag match as well, and he didn't actually get the win. So you've got this really interesting dynamic of he's there going against great opponents, he's looking great every time, but he's not quite getting the win. Hell, he can't even get the win against his nose. I think Leon Cage versus Bloody Nose is going to be rivalry of the year in Rev Pro. Jokes aside, I thought this was really, really, really good match. Chris Ridgway is someone who, anytime he gets announced for a show, I'm so happy about. He's got that real piss and vinegar style. One of the best theme songs of anyone on the scene. He just looked so good and just a nasty, nasty man. I think him getting the win is excellent because it furthers the story nicely for two people. It puts him on a path potentially towards the title or potentially into another story. And I love this idea that we've got this undercard cruiserweight story going on as well. So you can have a main title story and you can also have something else going on. Now, this is what plays into the match at Doncaster. Could we get Chris Ridgway versus Will Caven in Doncaster? Will we get, as we've maybe alluded to, we think could happen, would we get a Lio Rush still coming to Doncaster as a makeup date for the time that he couldn't make it last time? I'm not sure. But I do know that Chris Ridgway is like the momentum that he's got, and it's been getting off shows at the wins and just how violent he's looking, technically sound, nasty bastard, piss and vinegar, all of that good stuff. He's got some great momentum going behind him, and he's going to be going up against Seki Yoshioka in Southampton, and that will be an interesting match, and we'll get on to kind of the ramifications from that match as well between Seki and Stephen Wolf. I don't know where this leads to. Does this lead to Doncaster for the Cruiserweight title? I think that would be a great match. I'd like to see Ridgway win it. But at the same time, I think there's more to be told in the Caven story as well. For Leon, this is really, really interesting. And again, I'm going to segue a little bit into the next match as well. So, mentioned that he hasn't won a match in Rev Pro and singles. So it feels like that moment has to come. And I have this feeling, because from what I remember, he's not really teased the Stomp to the Future all that much. And I don't recall him going for it at any point. I could be wrong on that, but I don't recall it. But I know we haven't seen it in a Rev Pro ring yet. And I think that's on purpose. I think that is building to that. And I think that's when he gets his win. So there could be the occasion where he uses it, picks up the win. Or they could just build up to the move, or have a win first and then build up to the move after that. But I feel like it's such a spectacular moment that everyone knows Leon Cage for, that it has to be coming, right? I also like that despite the loss, and this is a theme that I find with Leon, he never really feels like he's someone's junior. It feels like a moment of an experience more than someone who's not on a level. He is on a level physically. He just doesn't have the experience to pull out some of these wins. And I really like that as well, because you're seeing the education of Leon Cage in Rev Pro. Which leads us on to the next match. Nino Bryant versus Michael Oku, in what was an absolutely fantastic match. And this, like, when I talked about story beats earlier, and I'm talking about Oku with Nino, and things that would happen later with Leon Slater. This whole story took up nearly 50 minutes of the show, which is quite impressive actually. And I liked it. It had a real flow to it. So the match itself, I thought was very good. Nino Bryant, we've said this before, has this way of making you go, what just happened there? And it was a move that, where we were sat, were right opposite a mirror. And we were all going, what the fuck? And we were kind of all looking at each other. I still don't know. There was some kind of head scissor takeover move where we don't understand how he did it and how Michael managed to land how he did and how everything was okay and whatnot. And even Amira kind of looked at us and went, I don't know what the fuck he just did. Well, actually, no, she didn't swear. But she was like, I don't know what you just did either. Like, he literally baffles people. And there's not many times I can say that I sit and watch a wrestler and say, the way they do things and the way they approach things is so different from what I've seen. He's innovative, but not innovative necessarily in a way of, I'm going to find this move that's going to blow your mind. Just his movements, the way he does things, his fighting stance, that he's always there kind of leaning into the opponent, almost going, come for me, but he's then holding back a little bit as well, ready to kind of counter. It feels legit. I think Nino's got a really bright future. He really, really does. And he seems to pull things out the bag that nobody else does. The match was really very good. What I thought was really great was the way that Michael had to really battle through. And there was a couple of times, I'm not going to lie, they had me. It really felt like Nino was going to get a surprise win over Michael Oku. And I think that's a real beauty of the way that these guys wrestled, because the ability to shock a crowd sometimes in wrestling and have them buy into things can be difficult when you see the bigger picture. So, did we actually think David Francisco was going to beat Michael Oku and win the title? Did we think that Nino Bryant was going to get a win over Michael Oku literally 2 weeks before the Doncaster Dome show? In both cases, no. But the way Rev Pro booked them and the way these guys executed it really had you believing. And I think they knew exactly how long to leave everything. And there were some really close falls in this. Now, if I'm being critical, and I'm going to add this preface to my tastes, I did feel that maybe they went a little bit long on some of the closing false finishes. I felt like there was one or two too many for what to me felt like, okay, this is your champion. This guy's taken him to his limit, but maybe we could have scaled it back a little bit. Okay. I also loved another story that seemed to be getting told. So anyone that's watched this podcast or listened to this podcast has heard me talk for a long time about heel Michael Oku. We did a what if video for what if Michael Oku retained the Undisputed British Heavyweight Championship at the Copper Box. And look, just a few months later, Michael Oku was once again champion. So I feel like, to a degree, this could be something that could be visited. And look, I can't call if Dave did as well, but I certainly know I have Michael Oku and Amira going heel. And we've said this for a while, that Michael Oku is the most lovely babyface in Rev Pro until the moments you see the mask slip. And it doesn't happen very often. And I felt like there was two versions of this on Sunday. There was the mask slipping unintentionally. And then there was the inviting of the world to see who he is. So little things that we picked up on from ringside was, obviously we had the Bryant brothers cornering for Nino. And we had Amira cornering for Michael. And there was the part where it looked like they really wanted to rattle Nino into the post, and the Bryant brothers stood there. And Amira was admonishing them. And later on, as she was going around the ringside, I don't know how much of this may have been picked up on stream, but she was doing it again. And she was even saying to Nino to, like, basically, it sounded like she was directing him just to do it for her. Like, don't try and win this match. Like, just know that your time is beat. Like, Michael Oku is beating you here. And it felt, when they did the end, seeing all of this, and this could be me putting 2 and 2 together and getting 500, or it could be getting 4, but it really felt like they were almost being a bit patronizing to Nino. And I really love how they got Leon out there as well. What I thought was interesting is they'll talk about great young talent, and look, no one will ever say anything against these guys because they are great young talents, and I think could go on to have an incredible match at Doncaster. But Cameron Kai is also someone that was touted as a great talent as well, so I found it interesting that he wasn't included in this, but maybe that's also playing into Southampton. But Oku had both of them in the ring and said that they were the future, and then, but who's better? I was like, huh. So you could take that one of two ways. I, in the moment, took it quite heelish, actually. It's him having the mask slip again and pitting these lads against each other to find out who is the better one, and almost cause a bit of infighting there potentially as well. But also seeing what would happen throughout the rest of the show made me feel like, yeah, there was just something here to be visited in Michael Oku, as well as these lads. And then we've had this match announced for Doncaster, Nino Bryant versus Leon Cage, a massive stage where initially I thought this was going to be Southampton, but you know what? It's a massive stage. This is going to be a really family-friendly crowd. There's going to be potentially a lot of casual people who recognise Sasha Banks and be like, wow, we're going to go to the wrestling. And what is a way to hook people into shows? Give them stuff that they just haven't seen before. Nino Bryant, could we get a stomp to the future? Who knows what's going to happen here? That's the beauty of this, right? We don't know what's going to happen in this match. It is a story coming into it with Nino and how close he took the champion. You've got this story with Leon, who still needs to pick up his win, still building to the stomp to the future. It's one of those ones on paper feels like there's not that much other than it being a banger match, but when you look at all the ingredients that go into where we got to, it was, yeah, there's a lot going on here. So that was the end of the first half, and I would say as well that was Dave the Mark's favourite match of the night. And look, it was just broad stroke storytelling. It was really great in that regard. There was a lot going on, and it was just a great match on top of it. Really, really fun match. So then we moved into the second half, and it was a really strong second half as well. So Yoshioka defeated Stephen Wolf in about 10 minutes. I was really surprised by that result. We know we got Yoshioka for potentially 2 shows. Could be more. We could have Doncaster. We don't know that yet. But we know that we had him for London and we've got him for Southampton. We obviously know there's ties between him and Ridgeway, tag team partners. But Ridgeway won earlier in the night, and so did Yoshioka. And they are going to face each other in Southampton. With Doncaster coming up and looking at the dates that Stephen Wolf has got, I think Doncaster could be his last show of the year for of this run so far for RevPro. So I was envisaging that he gets built up and he takes a win, goes on, maybe Southampton gets another win, I then goes on to face someone at Doncaster. Good match, off we go. So I was really intrigued by the loss here for Stephen and what this means for Yoshioka. The match was very good. I think most people will remember it for a certain spot. So my friend Marty next to me said to me, this guy, Seki, he is probably the only person I've seen live that can rival Callum Newman for speed. So that intrigued me straight away because Callum Newman, TV doesn't do it justice. You have to see him. And I saw what he meant. And everyone else saw what he meant as well when Stephen Wolf did the drop down trip and Yoshioka went flying out the ring in a way that, when I've seen the GIF back, doesn't look too bad. But from the angle we were sat, it did not look good. It looked quite gnarly. But yeah, fun match. I'm intrigued to see where it leads to. We then had what was, I think, my favourite match of the night. And did I think I'd be saying that about a trios match? No. But I've often spoke on this channel about sometimes the things that hit live versus watching on TV. And this is one of those matches that I think did that. CPF are a great trio. Okay? They all have their own individual strengths and what they can do. Then we've got the youngest guns in charge, the most tenuous link you can get to have these guys team up. First of all, when they came out and Luke was wearing the cowboy hat, Marty and I were sitting chatting, and Marty just noticed under the cowboy hat a slight bit of purple, and we couldn't really contain ourselves. We were laughing quite a bit at this match. This entrance, and that was because we could realize what was going on here. But Luke Jacobs also realized that we realized what was going on, and if you watch it, you can see Luke having a smirk on his face, and then at one point he just turns and gives us a little wink as if to say, I know, shut the fuck up. So we obviously quieted down a bit, but the reveal of the bandanas, they looked so good, and Cowboy Leon Slater is not something I knew I needed. And look, we can talk about everything in this match. We can talk about the great trio work by CPF. We can talk about everything that Leon Slater does, that how every time we see him, he seems to be excelling in every way more than he ever did before. Like, this lad is a fucking phenom. He is going to be the next Will Ospreay. And dare I say it, he is going to overtake Will Ospreay in ways that people can't imagine yet. Ethan and Luke are so comfortable in their lane. How can you have a ring where you got a pissed off Leon Slater, Luke Jacobs, and neither of those compare in being a nasty little bastard like Ethan Allen is? And I say that as a compliment. That lad has got the piss and vinegar of every single person combined, alongside someone legit pissing on his chips before he's about to have his dinner. He is so angry at the world. He's so angry at everyone. Except for Luke and except for Leon. His desire to win, his desire to prove himself, to show he's the best, I think is really a really great character beat for him. And I feel that he's very underrated in that regard. And I want an Ethan Allen Cruiserweight title run, because I think it can just be wonderful having him go on every fucking show and just beating people up. He's so good. He's so good. He's the man that got in the face of Tiffany Stratton. He is the man that he just knows how to make the most of every minute he has. So I can tell you all those wonderful things, but what I really want to concentrate on is the story beats coming out of this. Okay, so CPF steal the win, and through everything else that's going on, pisses off Luke and Ethan. Right, they feel almost offended, I think, that CPF beat them. And that's because they think they're the best. And why wouldn't they? They are literally tag team champions in Rev Pro right now. And they've beaten a team that, despite being together for a very short amount of time, one of the most impactful teams I think we've seen in Rev Pro history, from how quick they came on the scene to winning the title, to having banger matches, and then losing them in, so far, what is still my match of the year at Epic Encounter. So for CPF to win, that's because they're the best trio, right? They are the designated trio in Rev Pro. This is their type of match. They're gonna win this. So I thought the way they booked this to have CPF win against such credible opponents was really well done. Michael Oku. So this is where it plays into what I felt earlier in the night. Michael Oku comes out, and I first hear it because all I hear is I'm going live on Instagram. I'm going live on Instagram. And the guy went live on Instagram. But where he set his chair up, we clocked quite early on where it was set up and what usually happens. And he was being a dick. Okay, Michael Oku, this lovable babyface, this really nice guy, was being an absolute dick. He was being condescending. He was being rude. He was cheering for CPF. He was doing some babyface things. But Leon Slater's not a heel. And I know that Rev Pro operates a lot in the shades of grey, which is one of the things we love about it. But there really isn't much difference between Michael Oku and Leon Slater in terms of demeanour. They're both just... There's no heelish side, there's no face side necessarily. There's just the side that is who they are, the flaws and the great stuff they've got in their personality. And Leon just seems like he's been determined to get a shot at the title. But he's not gone about in the way that Manders did, where he feels like he's needed to take a shortcut to get there. So Michael coming out and being so demeaning to Leon has pissed him off. Absolutely pissed him off. And the shot, and if you want to have a look on Twitter, you will see video that I posted, which Michael Oku has also shared with his own point of view from Instagram, where Leon just goes and leaps over and just takes out Oku, who sat down on the chair, really getting that comeuppance, and the crowd went wild for it, which is mad to think, because yes, they're loving it because the spot, it looked spectacular, the way it was sold was so good, but it also felt like a heel getting that comeuppance, which is odd because that is not Michael Oku. But the mask, this is where I said the mask slips, and sometimes they take the mask off for you all to see, but maybe he doesn't realise that he's taken that mask off. Another really interesting little touch, the glasses. I think that's a signifier for Michael Oku being a bit of a dick, and I'm really hoping that after this match in Doncaster with Leon Slater, I think we could get a full-blown Michael Oku Amira heel experience. This was very, very good. This was my match of the night. It had everything. It had great wrestling. It had all kinds of great wrestling. It had great character moments. It had great story beats. This had everything I could want in a match. And for me, it had the handicap going in of being a trios match. A match I always say I don't vibe with as much, but when I'm there live and if they do the right thing, I loved it. Really, really loved it. Loved it. Main event time. Danny Luna versus Kanji. Whew, what a match this was. This was 20 minutes of two of the best in the world. Okay. Kanji is being put up against Mercedes Moné because, look, we know wrestling's not real. Okay. But it also kind of is, because these people are going out, honing their craft, they're taking the bumps, they're feeling the pain, they're getting the injuries. The result may be predetermined, but it doesn't make anything less. The grind, all of that, it doesn't make it less real. And for someone who has had troubles with injuries and not been able to find that rare vein of form because things like that, and then come into a career-defining run of 2024 that Kanji had, going up against a former undisputed British women's champion who has had top tier matches, most notably that dog collar match at York Hall with Alex Windsor, TNA Knockouts Tag Team Champion, winners of multiple titles in multiple promotions across America, Dani Luna, who these days, seeing her in the UK is such a rarity, where we used to see Dani Luna every other show. This, I believe, is her first singles match in Rev Pro all year, which shows how much Dani is being utilised elsewhere. Now, this was an interesting one because we're obviously building up to Mercedes versus Kanji. So we probably already knew the way this was going to go. Okay. But the story they told in the match, I really liked. It was a very, very basic story, but that suited the people involved. It really was a strength versus technical kind of match. Dani is like, she just keeps getting bigger while feeling leaner. She's got this presence about her because she's built really well, and you can feel the strength that she's got. And it was just this kind of story where Dani got her main things in there. There was obviously the spot where they were trying to do the Super Avalanche German. There was the Three Amigos and all that sort of stuff going on. But you also had Kanji with the wrist locks, trying to get the submission win. That was really important. And I thought that's where they were going with this. I thought they were really building up this submission win. And they got it. And the way they went about it, I thought was really good, because it kind of felt like the pin or the win came from out of nowhere. And it did a little bit. But it was done in such a way that from where we were sat, it looked like both were pinning each other. And right at the last minute, Kanji managed to wrestle away free to get a shoulder up. And I thought that was really interesting, because what that's done is it shows Dani Luna is really, really tough woman to beat. Really tough woman to beat. And Kanji still managed to claw and find a way to grind out the win. Despite multiple attempts at submissions, despite trying to get her to tap, and Dani Luna doesn't die. She couldn't quite eke that out of her, but she still managed to find a way to get the win. I thought it was exceptional storytelling. I thought it really foreshadows the match against Mercedes. And we ended this one with Dani Luna giving a bit of speech. Now, one of the things that we all noticed about this show was it was very conspicuous about the lack of Cutthroat Collective. And also on Twitter, there would seem to be a fair bit of CTC members saying, well, we're not here. What's going on? So I think a lot of us were expecting kind of a very last minute CTC invasion. And that didn't happen. So we had Dani Luna giving props to Kanji, basically saying that she felt that she deserved the match against Mercedes, saying that she didn't think Kanji could get the job done, and then said, actually, after that match, yes, she Kanji. she can get that result, but basically then took all of like the real life kind of all of everything that's brought up to that moment and how that responsibility has been thrust onto the shoulders of Kanji. We've often had talks as fans about Mercedes' title reign, and most of us are locked into the fact that our belief is high stakes plus a match at the anniversary show. Maybe something else in there, who knows? But that's what we're all thinking. And I think if you ask people at the beginning of the show on Sunday, everyone would think the same. About half the people I spoke to at the end of the show all said they think Kanji wins the belt from Mercedes. Now, I don't. I think it's going to be a very special moment. I think the women's gauntlet is clearly playing up to that. Could be the person who then goes on to defeat Mercedes or has a match with Mercedes. We don't know. Like, we're just speculating here. They've also announced a double night at Crystal Palace, same weekend as AEW. Now, that's not to say that Mercedes can't lose the title and then not come back and have a match. Like, that could happen. But it feels, all the logistics around it feel like it's set up for Mercedes to retain. But what they've done with this, with the way Danny delivered the promo, the really lo-fi style in that it was just Danny talking to Kanji and nothing else going on around, no big kind of saves or anything like that. It was just a talk. It really made people believe and capture the hearts and minds and spirits of people. And I think you're going into Doncaster with people really believing Kanji's going to get the win here. And I think if they play the cards right, whether she wins or she doesn't come away with a win, I think they can play a really great match that has people captured and raptured in it as well. So I loved it. I thought it was a very good main event. Actually great. It was great. I really loved it, and it just felt like that, a little bit slower, and I don't mean that in a bad way either. A little bit slower after the match that we had before. The storytelling was on point. Everything about this was great. And to see Kanji get a main event match in London was, it was great. The woman is fantastic. Dani Luna is fantastic. Their chemistry is fantastic. Roll on high stakes. So that was Live in London, and I said that I would talk through a few more bits. So yeah, what else has been announced since we last spoke? Well, we've obviously got Mercedes and Kanji. The women's gauntlet, that has thrown up some interesting names. Anita Vaughn, LA Taylor, Charlie Evans, Dani Luna, Serena Deeb. That is looking good. Who else do we think can go there? I don't know yet, but I'm interested to see where that goes. At this stage, there's no other Cutthroat Collective members in there. Do we see some of their names being entered? Is it then filled up with Cutthroat Collective members? Do we get a surprise person on the night? I'm not sure. I'm intrigued to see where it goes. And the one thing I do think coming out of that, Charlie Evans, Millie McKenzie line back up again. Obviously, we've got Michael Oku and Leon Slater. We've got RKJ versus Donovan Dijak, which interesting one. Dijak has come in and had some matches. He had a great match with Oku. He had an incredible match with Robbie X at Summer Sizzler. So interested to see how that plans out. Southampton, we've mentioned him. Chris Ridgway versus Seki Yoshioka. We've got Young Guns taking on CPF. So does something happen there that then builds up CPF versus Young Guns at Doncaster Dome for high stakes? We've got Leon Slater versus David Francisco. Interesting to me because David Francisco is going to be the de facto babyface there. Leon Slater is going to be a heel in that match, but is also feeling like he's been built up as the babyface against Oku. Interesting times ahead. We've also got live in Barcelona in May as well, with some names being tagged for that. Leon Cage, CPF, Young Guns, Leon Slater, and also for the weekend, Cameron Kai versus Michael Oku. Interested to see whether it's just coincidence that the comments that were made about the youngest members of the roster and who the future is, whether that was just coincidence or whether there is something here which is building Cameron Kai up with that as well. Interesting stuff. Guys, thank you so much for watching and listening. This has been such a fun time to chat. My voice is going hoarse, so I'm going to go. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Like, share, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Until then, we're out of here.